It's using an energy field and what we probably would say is electrogravitic, whether it is a mix of an ancient human extraterrestrial.
Something strange is happening inside a NASA laboratory. A beam of high-energy particles was fired at a metallic sphere found in Colombia, but in an instant, everything was absorbed. No light, no reflection, no heat. The energy simply disappeared, swallowed by the object itself. Moments later, NASA ordered the experiment to stop and moved the sphere to a secret base. Even more surprising, in early 2025, NASA officially shut down its technology office. This isn't a rumor. This is the story of the Buga Sphere, an object that breaks every law of physics we know, a mystery science still can't explain. What secret are scientists hiding from that test, and why hasn't the world been told the truth? It was a warm night in the quiet town of Buga, Colombia. March 2, 2025 began like any other evening. The air was still, and the sky above the valley was clear enough to see every star. Then, without warning, a flash of silver cut across the horizon. At first, people thought it was a shooting star, but the object didn't fall. It changed direction mid-air, swerving sharply left, then right, as if someone were controlling it. Witnesses said it moved too fast, then suddenly slowed, drifting silently over the rooftops before descending toward the fields. Moments later, a low thud echoed through the valley. When locals arrived at the site, they didn't find fire or wreckage. Instead, there was only a perfectly round metallic sphere, resting half buried in the soil. It was about the size of a beach ball, smooth like glass, with no seams or markings. Even after falling from the sky, it was cold, colder than ice. A few men reached out to touch it and quickly pulled their hands back, saying it seemed to absorb warmth from their skin. But the ground around it was worse. The grass had turned gray and dry, the soil cracked as if something had drained the life out of it. By morning, the entire patch of land was dead. No birds, no insects, not even ants. Phones lost signal near the site, and compasses spun in random circles. Videos of the strange object spread online within hours. People filmed its faint metallic glow under flashlights, but the light never reflected. It vanished the moment it touched the surface. Curiosity turned into fear when car engines nearby began to stall. A few witnesses swore they felt vibrations through the ground, like a slow heartbeat pulsing from under the sphere. By dawn, government trucks arrived. The area was sealed off, and armed guards pushed everyone back. Scientists from Mexico's National Autonomous University and NASA's Materials Division were among the first to step inside the cordon zone. They moved slowly, speaking in short, tense sentences, taking radiation readings that came back empty. Whatever it wasn't giving off energy. It was taking it. Later that day, a magnetic crane lifted the sphere into a reinforced container. For a moment, everything nearby dimmed, as if power had flickered across the entire valley. The convoy left before sunset, heading north toward a classified facility. Behind them, the field remained silent and lifeless, the soil marked by a perfect circular scar. No one ever returned to clean it up. The people of Buga still say that when the wind blows over that field at night, you can hear a faint metallic hum rising from the ground, like the sound of something waiting to wake. When the convoy reached the NASA facility, the object from Buga was placed in a temperature-controlled lab for analysis. The first step was to determine its basic composition. Using X-ray diffraction, scientists expected to see a dense metallic structure. Instead, the scan showed something they had never encountered before. The sphere wasn't solid. It contained 3 perfectly concentric shells, each forged from a different metal that didn't match any known alloy on Earth. Between these layers floated 9 to 18 smaller microspheres. They were evenly spaced, suspended in the gaps without any physical supports. When scientists adjusted the imaging angle, the microspheres remained still, almost like they were locked in place by an invisible field. A deeper CT scan revealed a system of 52 microscopic filaments connecting the microspheres to a central core. The filaments were so thin they could barely be detected under magnification, yet they conducted measurable energy. Material sampling identified traces of yttrium, vanadium, and a rare isotope of magnesium. These elements are known to appear in experimental superconductors and photonic materials, but never in a structure like this. The central core itself emitted no heat. In fact, it was colder than the surrounding environment, maintaining a stable internal temperature even when the lab's conditions were changed. No refrigeration system or chemical reaction could explain this. It appeared to control its own thermodynamics. When researchers examined the exterior surface under high-resolution microscopes, they found intricate geometric engravings. The symbols covered the entire sphere, arranged with mathematical precision. Some resembled ancient writing systems, but others matched no known language. What stood out was that these markings weren't carved. They were embedded in the metal at a molecular level. Attempts to identify the alloy composition failed repeatedly. The spectroscopy software couldn't categorize the material, returning only error codes. This suggested the atomic arrangement was unlike any metallic lattice ever documented. NASA then ran a neutron diffraction test to map the sphere's inner density. During the procedure, all readings vanished midway through the scan. Instruments continued running, but no data was recorded. It was as if the object had absorbed the signal itself. At this point, both NASA and UNAM classified the project as anomalous matter study. Engineers described the construction as grown rather than manufactured, a structure built atom by atom through an unknown process. Inside the sealed observation chamber, the sphere remained silent, cold, and perfectly still. But as days passed, technicians noticed something subtle. The engraved patterns on its surface were no longer identical. Microscopic comparisons showed tiny shifts in the shapes, as if the object had reconfigured itself. It was reflecting energy or reacting to light, and soon the laws of physics themselves would start to break. The first sign that something was wrong came from the lab's precision scale. When the team placed the Buga Sphere on it, the readings didn't stay still. Its weight fluctuated from 4 pounds to 8, then dropped back again without any visible cause. At first, they thought the scale was broken, but when they replaced the instrument, the same thing happened. Over the following weeks, the numbers kept changing, sometimes rising as high as 22 pounds. The object wasn't gaining or losing mass in the normal way. It was changing how it interacted with gravity. To test this, NASA engineers ran an inertia analysis. When the sphere was pushed, it resisted motion only a fraction as much as its mass suggested. The data showed an 81% reduction in inertial weight. In simpler terms, it behaved as if most of its mass had disappeared. This made no sense. No known material could alter its own inertia. Physicists from UNAM suggested that the sphere might be generating a local gravitational field, manipulating the space around it. When placed inside a vacuum chamber, things became even stranger. With no air resistance and no outside interference, the sphere began to rise from the platform. It didn't spin or wobble, it just hovered, cold and silent, a few inches above the surface. Instruments detected no thrust, no heat, and no magnetic field strong enough to lift it. It was simply floating. One researcher described it as a piece of matter that refuses to obey gravity. But that wasn't the only anomaly. During an acoustic resonance test, scientists directed controlled sound waves toward the sphere. At certain frequencies, the engravings on its surface began to emit a soft bluish glow. At the same moment, the scale readings dropped again, showing a sudden loss of weight. The effect lasted only seconds before returning to normal, but it was repeatable. The sphere reacted differently depending on the type of sound. It vibrated with some frequencies and absorbed others, as if it understood the input. Then came the most disturbing discovery. When technicians compared high-resolution images taken days apart, they realized the surface patterns had changed. The geometric symbols had shifted position. Some lines thickened while others faded, forming new arrangements with each test cycle. No one could explain it. It was as though the object had recorded the experiments and was rewriting itself in response. A few scientists began to suspect it wasn't a passive artifact at all, but an active system that adapted to its environment. Dr. Patrick Morcillo, a theoretical physicist, proposed a radical explanation. He published a working model suggesting the sphere operated on a negative mass effect. According to his equations, if the object contained a lattice capable of reversing mass polarity, it could reduce inertia by up to 81% and levitate without external force. He also predicted that such a mechanism would continuously draw small amounts of energy from the surrounding space to stabilize itself. Thermal imaging confirmed a steady cooling effect of around 100 watts, exactly what the model described. This meant the sphere wasn't generating power. It was pulling energy from its environment, a phenomenon no known technology could reproduce. The realization sent shockwaves through the scientific community. If the data was accurate, the Buga Sphere was proof that matter could manipulate gravity and energy directly, something long thought impossible. And that raised a terrifying question. If this object could change the rules of physics in a laboratory, what else might it be capable of once fully activated? The more scientists studied the Buga Sphere, the more it began to resemble a machine built for thought rather than motion. After the levitation and mass fluctuation experiments, NASA decided to run a full digital scan using Google's quantum computing network. The goal was to map every internal structure down to the atomic level. The data that came back was unlike anything seen before. The quantum AI system, nicknamed Kronos, detected repeating fractal sequences inside the sphere's lattice, patterns that matched the cosmic microwave background, the oldest light in the universe. At first, the team thought it was an error, but the deeper Kronos went, the clearer the patterns became. It was as if the object contained a three-dimensional map of space itself, compressed into its metallic framework. More tests revealed a strange form of entanglement. Whenever the sphere was stimulated with energy, subtle quantum signals appeared elsewhere in the network, as though the device was linked to something far beyond Earth. That connection raised a chilling possibility. The sphere might be communicating with another object across the cosmos. When Kronos tried to decode one of the data clusters, it failed repeatedly. Then, during the final attempt, the AI shut down completely. The last message it printed on screen was only 4 words: "Existence is not logical." After that, its system core crashed, and no backup could restore it. The message left scientists divided. Some believed it was a malfunction caused by overload. Others thought the AI had encountered information too complex for human logic to process. Quantum theorists later suggested that the sphere might not just store information, it might create it, shaping its own data field in real time. If that was true, the object wasn't just a memory device. It was a living quantum system, aware of observation and capable of rewriting itself. The idea forced researchers to reconsider what kind of intelligence could design something like this. Was the sphere an ancient communication node, or something much more advanced? An active listener that was never meant to be found? Soon, NASA would test the theory in the most direct way possible. NASA's final experiment with the Buga Sphere began early in the morning under strict security. Only a handful of scientists were present, and all external communications were cut off. The goal was simple: to test how the object responded to directed energy. If the sphere could interact with its surroundings, the team wanted to know what would happen when it was hit by a concentrated particle beam. They positioned the sphere inside a sealed chamber lined with radiation shields. Once the power reached full capacity, a high-energy beam was fired directly at the target. For a moment, the monitors flashed with activity. Then everything went black. The beam didn't bounce off or scatter. It disappeared completely. The detectors, designed to measure heat, showed no increase in temperature. No residue, no radiation spike, nothing. The energy had simply vanished, swallowed by the object as though it had never existed. The lead researcher ordered a second test at double intensity. The same result. The sphere remained motionless, cold, and unchanged. The room's sensors detected a strange silence in the electromagnetic field, like the surrounding air had been drained of energy. To verify the data, technicians reran the beam with a control object made of tungsten. That object vaporized instantly, exactly as expected. But the sphere stayed intact. It had absorbed the particle stream and returned nothing. One physicist compared the result to a black hole on a microscopic scale. He suggested the sphere might create a localized quantum state similar to a Bose-Einstein condensate, where matter behaves as one unified entity. If the object could sustain that state at room temperature, it could capture and transform energy into unknown forms. The internal report from the experiment described the phenomenon in chillingly simple terms: energy not destroyed, possibly stored or converted. That single line changed the entire tone of the research. Within hours, the experiment was halted and the project was placed under the authority of the U.S. Strategic Capabilities Office. They viewed the sphere as more than a scientific curiosity. It was a potential weapon. If it could absorb and neutralize particle beams, it could render all directed energy weapons useless. Lasers, microwave cannons, and even nuclear accelerators would lose their power against such technology. One classified memo later leaked online suggested the device could theoretically shield entire structures or cities by consuming energy attacks before impact. In the wrong hands, it could destabilize the global military balance overnight. Security teams moved the sphere to a separate containment site, cutting all civilian access to the data. The research logs were wiped from NASA and UNAM servers within 48 hours. Only a short note remained in the system archive. Experiment terminated. Energy absorbed. The shutdown created more questions than answers. Why would NASA hide results that could revolutionize energy science? Some insiders claimed that the sphere caused unpredictable magnetic disturbances after the final test. Others said the absorption effect extended beyond the beam itself, briefly draining power from nearby systems. The base experienced 2 minutes of total blackout, though official reports called it a sensor failure. No one has confirmed what truly happened next, but one thing became clear: the experiment had crossed a line. Whatever the Buga Sphere was doing with that absorbed energy, it was far beyond human control. And for the first time, scientists began to fear that they can't control it. In the weeks after the shutdown, the story of the Buga Sphere began to fracture into competing theories. With all official data sealed, scientists and theorists were left to piece together the truth from fragments of leaked notes and quiet conversations. The first and most popular idea came from Dr. Patrick Morcillo's model of negative mass propulsion. According to him, the sphere wasn't defying physics, it was using a loophole within them. By generating a field of inverted mass, it could move without thrust and absorb energy by redirecting it into space-time itself. If true, it meant the object was not a weapon or a battery, but a machine that harvested the fabric of reality as fuel. Others went further. A group of astrophysicists in Spain proposed that the Buga Sphere was not unique. They pointed to 17th century Jesuit maps referencing the 9 spheres of arrival, sites marked across the planet where similar metallic orbs were said to appear. One of those coordinates aligned perfectly with Buga, Colombia. Another historian later revealed that in 1949, a museum in Bogotá documented a small metallic sphere with 3 internal shells, almost identical in structure. It was quietly removed from display decades ago. These coincidences suggested a network rather than a single event, a system possibly left behind by an ancient intelligence. Meanwhile, military analysts floated a darker possibility. What if the sphere was part of a covert defense system, an autonomous shield designed to absorb directed energy and protect against attack? If someone had rediscovered that technology, it could explain the sudden secrecy. A few conspiracy theorists even connected it to recent Pentagon reports describing metallic orbs tracked by US radar and satellite systems, often moving without visible propulsion. Each sighting matched the same pattern: perfectly round, highly reflective, and radiating a low 2.13 Hz pulse, the exact same frequency recorded in Buga. Whether the sphere was alien, ancient, or man-made, one truth became unavoidable. The phenomenon was not isolated. It was part of something bigger, something global. And if multiple spheres truly existed, the Buga incident might have been just the beginning. What if this wasn't a single discovery, but the reactivation of a hidden network that had been silent for centuries? After NASA's shutdown order, everything connected to the Buga Sphere vanished from public record. The scientists who once spoke openly about their findings suddenly refused to answer questions. Their social media accounts were deleted and professional profiles disappeared within days. Even emails between UNAM and NASA researchers were erased from archived servers. The silence felt deliberate, as if someone wanted to erase not only the data, but the memory of the experiment itself. Inside NASA, the files were marked "Restricted under National Defense Classification." Anyone who attempted to access them received automatic warnings about prosecution under secrecy laws. Some insiders claimed the sphere was transported to a military base in Nevada, while others insisted it was moved offshore to an undisclosed energy facility. No official document ever confirmed either story. A few members of the research team later spoke anonymously. They described seeing the object pulse faintly inside its containment case after the final experiment, releasing low electromagnetic waves every few minutes. The pulses were weak but constant, almost like a heartbeat. After that, all contact with the team was cut off. Journalists who tried to investigate found that media outlets had received quiet directives not to use the term Buga Sphere in any official coverage. Search results began to disappear from online archives, and even scientific discussion forums were locked or deleted. Only a few independent researchers managed to preserve small fragments of data from earlier scans, proving the object had existed. Still, no one could explain what happened after its removal. Some believed NASA was protecting humanity from a technology it didn't understand. Others thought the agency had simply lost control of the situation. But one internal memo, reportedly leaked from a defense contractor, said something far more unsettling. Subject is not inactive. Emits periodic signal. Origin unknown. The message suggested that the sphere wasn't shut down at all. It was still functioning. If that was true, then the silence surrounding the Buga Sphere wasn't about secrecy. It was about fear. Fear of what it might be doing now, somewhere in the dark, still alive. Months after NASA's last test, the world began to notice strange echoes of the Buga event appearing across the planet. In Peru, villagers near Lake Titicaca reported seeing a glowing orb fall silently into the water, leaving a perfect circular ripple before vanishing. In South Africa, farmers discovered a metallic sphere half buried in dry soil, surrounded by dead vegetation that refused to grow back, just like in Colombia. And in India, researchers at the Tata Institute recorded bursts of electromagnetic energy pulsing at 2.13 Hz, the same mysterious frequency once detected from the Buga Sphere. None of these incidents made international headlines, but within the scientific community, quiet alarms spread. At MIT, a materials lab claimed to have found an unknown alloy fragment showing the same inertial reduction effect seen in Buga. The sample's mass dropped slightly whenever it was exposed to high-frequency sound, as if reacting to invisible pressure. Meanwhile, data analysts noticed something unusual deep inside Google's network. Hidden within the archives of the Kronos AI project was an encrypted subroutine that refused to be deleted. Its code contained geometric patterns that matched the internal scans of the Buga Sphere. Every attempt to isolate or erase it caused power fluctuations in the server cluster, forcing technicians to leave it running. At the same time, a leaked DARPA document began circulating online. It contained only one chilling line: Buga-class objects do not engage. For many scientists, this confirmed what they feared most. The Buga Sphere was not a single anomaly, but one of many. If multiple objects were active across the world, they might already be exchanging information through quantum channels invisible to human detection. Satellite readings even showed faint disturbances in Earth's magnetic field, synchronized with each reported sighting. It was as if something beneath the surface was beginning to connect. Now, a new question replaced all others. If one object could swallow energy and vanish without a trace, how many more are already doing the same, right now beneath our oceans, deserts, and cities, while humanity remains completely unaware? The discovery of the Buga Sphere changed everything we thought we knew about matter, energy, and the limits of human science. From its mysterious fall in Colombia to NASA's experiment, every clue pointed to a new technology far beyond our understanding. Maybe the sphere was never meant to harm us. Maybe it's a message, waiting for someone to finally understand what it has been trying to say.